For TAC guidance mode, we want to change our steering mode to TAC. To do this, from the main screen, hold the steering wheel button with the 3 orange dots and scroll over to the TAC mode. TAC mode will look like a corn snout with our sensor in it and some corn stalks, kind of from a top view down. From here, tap the flashing steering wheel button, and now we are in TAC steering mode. TAC steering mode is very similar to GPS steering mode in the fact that it has its own sensitivity value. You can also nudge the TAC sensor left or right. This is mostly done to compensate for example, a mis-centered mounting of the sensor or an imbalance in an angle sensor calibration or things like that. Typically it's more of a band-aid solution. Ideally the system should drive center down the road without doing any form of a nudge. Again, you'll see a vehicle number with the number 1 and you'll see speed of the system. You'll notice that you again have your deviation light bar interface. You'll notice that the deviation number is blank. In our latest software 2.164 or newer, we removed the deviation number. What was displayed there was similar to a deviation for a GPS system. The only difference is it was a value in sensor increments. We found it to be somewhat misleading. They show very large values because of the high resolution of the sensor. In general, you want to refer to the deviation in the field as well as the light bar. Very similar to GPS steering mode, you have your aggressiveness value. You can adjust this again from the same point, make the system more or less aggressive. You have your nudge value. In this case, you can just tap the nudge button and you'll have right and left arrows, and you can nudge to the right or the left. This value is not in inches, it's in sensor increments. If you nudge to the right, it will move the system to the right to hug the corn closer to the right side. If you tap the wrench button while in TAC mode with 2.164 or newer software, you'll see our TAC configuration menu. From here is where you can do a neutral calibration of our TAC sensor. You'll see right here an icon showing a single TAC sensor to the left. This is the most common. It's the same as seeing a single TAC sensor. And that means we have a single TAC sensor in a single snout reading 2 rows, TAC 1, TAC 2 on the left and the right side. When you have a good TAC reading, you'll see a value for the TAC sensors on the top, between 50 and 80 typically, if they're not in corn. And what this calibration is for is to calibrate when the sensors are not in corn, at rest, typically in a neutral position. And this helps us know when we're not in corn to perform gap detection or to follow the rows when there is not corn to read. If you're using more than one TAC sensor in a header, for example, seed corn harvesters that we work with, we have 2 TAC sensors. You can select 2 TAC sensors and now you'll have readings 1 through 4. And same process, tap this button to calibrate and it'll set all the current readings to the calibrated readings. Here we're reading just the inside rows. So there's a combination of different patterns. Here we're just reading the right sensor if we have 2 sensors. These are different settings depending on the circumstances of what we're trying to read. Under mode, you have straight mode. We also have a pivot function and combi mode. Combi mode is used to combine GPS and row guidance. Typically our system just guides off of the sensor readings themselves. In combi mode, it'll use GPS position points to create an A point and a B point while it's guiding with the row sensors. When the auto steer is disengaged between passes, halfway to the second pass, it'll switch to GPS mode, and then you can use GPS to guide the system into the next pass. Once it's guiding down the next pass on GPS, it'll automatically switch back to the sensors. So to switch to combi mode, you'd switch from mode straight to combi, and down below here you can enter in the width. So for example, if I'm running a 12 row 22 inch, you put in the exact width, and from here when I disengage the auto steer and I move halfway to the next pass, so 11 foot, you'll hear the system beep, guiding with GPS, and then guide off the row with row feelers once it's on the line. You'll also notice there's a tilt percentage. This has to do with our external tilt sensor. It also would work with our integrated terrain compensation roll angle sensor. This really helps in hilly conditions. Once all the desired settings are entered, you press the OK button and it'll take you back to the main. You'll see that Combi mode is enabled, so at this point it will take the A point and the B point calculated while guiding with the sensors to create a GPS line when you pull into the next pass. From an operator's perspective, the important thing to know here with this system is how to calibrate the sensors. The paddles themselves have memory, and to do this calibration, I would say the first year, do this maybe once at the beginning of harvest, once the first week of harvest. You'll notice that these readings, neutral readings, will actually change over time just because of the natural memory in the paddles.